welcome to another Snapshot series video. Today we have Scott Richardson, who I've known for a while now, from Burrana. He is the CFO and is here to tell us a little bit about, what's happening in his world at the moment. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much for having me, Claire. Nice to be here.
Thank you. So today, obviously, as I've mentioned, wanting to have a quick chat to you on how this current climate, COVID-19, has affected you and your role and business. Obviously, I mentioned you don't need to share confidential information. It's just to see where you guys were to where you are now. I do know, and we've discussed already, that you were traveling quite a little bit, well, quite a lot. And I know that your clients are within that aerospace, airline aviation space. So I'm interested to just hear your story.
Yeah, so Burrana manufactures and supplies in-flight entertainment, in-seat passenger power, avionics, and in-cabin lighting to commercial aircraft around the world. So have been quite badly affected by what's going on at the moment. Of course, we sell directly to airlines, and we also sell to the OEMs, Boeing and Airbus, who have also halted production for a period of time and also slowed production on new aircraft, as well as so we do new aircraft and also retrofit existing aircraft. So we've had to really act very quickly to make sure, from a cash point of view, that we weren't spending more than we were getting in, because what we were getting in was stopping pretty quickly. The debtors are quite healthy, but the sales were obviously dropping off in the future. So what we did very quickly was stand down all personnel that did not have a sales focus, and that was for an initial 4-week period, and that finished last week. And now we've gone back to, and in that time we've been able to understand what sort of government assistance we can get, both in Australia and the US, and also, so there are two biggest markets. We've also got staff in China, France, and the UK. All of those have programs, and we've tapped into all of them to make sure we can, and we're bringing back staff based on what those programs allow us to do.
Okay.
That's really the major thing we've been working on the whole time. Is my rest of my time has been negotiating with airlines on paying their debtors on time. So they've all, not many of them have too much cash in reserve once the receipts go out of their business from passengers not being on planes.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So twofold really, from the employee side, where you've mentioned that the different programs from around the world, because you're having to deal with all of those. I mean, that must be quite complex. Is there any sort of ones that, this is just more from an interest perspective, ones that have popped up where you've actually that's a really good scheme that they've got going, or is Australia really kind of shone in this area?
Yeah, actually the US has got the best scheme.
Okay.
So they've got something called the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, and for small businesses, which I think is under, I think it's either 50 million or 100 million US turnover, they will pay the payroll costs, and there's a formula, but the actual payroll costs for an 8-week period. So they're paying it from now for 8 weeks, and they'll maximise, up to a maximum of 100,000 per employee. So if someone's on 150,000, they'll pay 100,000 equivalent for that person. Someone's on 90,000, they'll pay 90,000 for that person. So that was really good. We're allowed to, that's where our biggest number of staff are. It allowed us to bring back staff on a cash neutral basis for the next 8 weeks. And the thought is that they will probably go again with another 8-week program, considering things aren't looking too likely to be finishing in 8 weeks in the US from the impacts of the COVID-19.
I mean, that must have been a huge relief for your employees.
Yes.
And it's great that you guys have been able to work through that with them. And I suppose from the client side, from that aviation airline side, are your clients, as you mentioned, you've got to concentrate on that kind of debt side, the debt collection really.
Yep.
Are they getting much support from their governments as well?
No, not really. No, we've got, I won't name the airline, but there's an airline that is a major carrier for a region, and they're a major customer of ours, and they were expected to be helped by the government, but the government have actually said publicly they're not going to do that. So they're back on their own. So other than that, we've got sort of blue chip airlines anyway, and also Boeing and
Yeah.
Airbus, of course, that in themselves
Yeah.
they've had financial support come in. I think Boeing,
Yeah.
I think it was $12 billion loan they took on about a month ago to help
Yeah.
prop up their business. So everyone's
Yeah.
in the same boat.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I
Bigger
think
numbers
everyone's
or
wondering the
smaller
same
numbers.
thing.
That's right.
Everyone's wondering when is it going to end and when we're going to get back to, you know, a normal state. So I suppose from your role, obviously having that overview of your global business and where you're right now, what do you think are the key things you guys as a business are going to be needing to do in the next, say, 3 to 6 months to ensure that you're on track? When I say on track, I'm not saying hitting the numbers that you were hitting, but you know that you guys are going to be okay.
Yeah, so we've got existing products that that just roll out without a lot of extra cost involved. Then we've got new products that involve a lot of R&D. So for us, it's working out the balance of the new products versus the existing products, because the new products obviously had a lot of this R&D cost that you don't recoup back for a number of years, and that's so where that sort of sits. We're still working through that. I mean, we've got a lot of scope with our current products anyway, so I think most likely that is how it will go. It won't be completely out, but it'll drop down a fair bit to save a lot of cash, and we can still operate at similar sort of sales levels for the next couple of years on the current products. I think that's probably the major.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Where that sort of sits. And we've also got a repair business, which is about half of our revenue actually. So, and so that is the other focus, because it's higher margin business for us. So making sure that high margin turnover gets up to where it should be and beyond, which then provides cash to support the rest of the business as well.
That's fantastic. When I heard, obviously, manufacturing facilities in the US, I immediately think of the news that's coming out at the moment, with a lot of people obviously, turning their manufacturing plants into, manufacturing ventilators and masks and things like that. So that's not an area that you guys are in.
No, we're actually our factory's in Mexico. It's part of a maquiladora, which is a agreement with the US government. But we've got quite a number of Boeing and Airbus products that are still coming off the production line. It's about 40% down, but we've still got some things happening there. So with normal products, it's been great supporting our order book.
Yeah. So what for you, sitting in the role that you're in the company, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Oh, I think that just the biggest challenge has been the reaction the airlines had to their payables and our receivables, not just ours, everyone's receivables in the industry, and how fragile their balance sheets, some of their balance sheets are. And us then having to really work hard to make sure we're getting that cash in so we could then be solvent ourselves. So that was an overnight change. Things were coming in nicely on time in terms, generally speaking, through the months preceding, and then it just changed overnight. So we had to react accordingly, and we did reacted really quickly. Actually, the team's done a great job.
Yeah. So and given the fact that obviously you have the US connection, the Asia connection, from an Australian business point of view, you would have seen what was happening over in Asia prior to us, I suppose, reacting in Australia. So you guys were reacting as a business a lot quicker ahead of what I suppose we did. If I think about really when businesses started reacting, and I think about my clients, that was only probably, so it was the week after the 19th of March. So, I mean, you guys would have been able to get intel a lot quicker and be able to go, okay, this thing may be coming here. That's
absolutely correct. And the biggest section of our order book, as far as our three regions, which are Asia, Europe, and the US, is Asia and China in particular. So we saw that happening through January with tenders that were in progress being halted, and many other things with that Chinese market. And we were watching to see if it did come to the rest of the world, and had already reacted in China, in fact, for our own business, of course. And so we were able to sort of use some of those measures fairly quickly to roll that out to the rest of the business and react as quickly as we could, which was...
That's good.
Yeah, it was sort of a saving grace in a way, but still pretty frantic.
So if you could give a tip or a take from the experience that you've had, and obviously there's still experiences to come, and we will circle back on this video to see where you're at in a couple of months, but what would that takeaway be to any of the finance leaders that are listening today?
I think there's probably quite a few things, but I think the biggest thing I think really is to make sure that your staff are okay, and not just the finance staff, but the staff inside the business. Because I know me, I talk about myself, I talk as generally as CFOs, but as myself, I sometimes, you do the spreadsheets, you do the modelling, and you work out how much cost you need to cut, but you got to think about what's behind those costs. In most businesses, that's people, and how that affects them. So, but making sure you're fully cognizant of how it affects the people and how you communicate that. And not just in your own business, but also in the customers and suppliers' businesses, because as the customers cut off our cash, we have to push our suppliers back as well, and that affects people through their business. And in our business, we have to deal with those things between those two. So there's lots of things that happen, and it's all about the people. So I think it's a general sort of comment in a way, but I think making sure you remember the people through these times is that's how you get through it the best with people.
I think that is probably the biggest balancing act. Like you say, you're dealing with people from a client's perspective, a supplier's perspective, an internal perspective, and it's trying to balance and those relationships, because you don't want to burn any relationships. When clients can't pay you and you need to pay your suppliers, it's trying to really figure out how to do this amicably, and being able to look after people, because they also have families to support, and everyone's in the same situation. So I agree with you. I would say that's probably the biggest challenge, and there are companies that will probably not see that and just go pretty hard at getting the money that they need, or pretty hard at cutting employees straight away, and it doesn't matter where it's at. I suppose actually there's no wrong or right now, because you kind of got to do what you've got to do as a business, and to keep the businesses alive and keep them afloat. But it's been an interesting time across the board, and I suppose I'm in the people business, so I get very different calls every day from very different people. One minute someone's been stood down, the next minute someone's been let go, another one's been employed. I've had someone tears on the phone having to let go the whole. It's been a very kind of, I suppose for me, a day-to-day emotional call regime as to what's going on in the market. But it's good to hear that you guys are secure where you are right now, and that you've got your plans in place to keep your employees where they are, and keep things ticking over for this time being, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so great to catch up with you. And like I said, I'd like to circle back around in a couple of months and see where you guys are at, and hopefully we'll catch up then.
Thanks for having me, Claire. I'd love to talk again whenever you're ready.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott.
Okay.